That's when we got to watch the last quarter. It was like, yeah, they were in there, had a couple chances. I gotta play Nick.
On the agenda. Yes, sir. Please stand and state your name, address.
Somebody up here or here?
If you can hear, if we can hear you, you're fine there. If you
Okay.
can't, you can step forward.
My name is Stephen Menke. I live on Hobson Avenue. I'm here because our neighborhood is changing. I've been here before. I'm looking to get an update on the Ethan Allen project
Yes.
and what might happen with the closing of Dewey Ave.
Yeah.
That's the first question. The second question is, has to do with Airbnbs. And I can't get a straight answer. Are they allowed or not allowed? I had somebody knock on my door and said, "Oh, I'm here for the Airbnb." It was the house next door. Nobody told me. It's been going on, parties, all kinds of stuff going on. They're welcoming people with dogs. So what's the town's position on Airbnbs?
I think that, well, I can only speak from the past. I don't know. We haven't canvassed recently. Majority of the board, but we have had issues with Airbnbs in the past, and we have discussed a law which would require rentals to be 1 month or more, which would essentially put Airbnbs out of the business. And so I don't believe we have any restrictions in place right now, so it's perfectly legal within the town of DeWitt for folks to put Airbnbs, but you're more than welcome to, I'll open it to the board and we can canvass. If there is any interest in pursuing a rental restriction on, at some level, that would put the daily, weekend type of rental in some form of regulation. But we've had that discussion in the past, and the discussion only pops up when we have repeated problems at a particular location. And so this is a,
Well, I brought this to, who was it? I think the assessor of planning's office back in February.
yeah,
I was told then that it was against the law. And I could file a complaint, which I did. I hear nothing back. A month goes by, I come in to get my fishing license and find out that it's been turned over to the town attorney. I've called the town attorney, I think his name is Natoli. Never get a call back, you know, nobody tells me you need to talk to this person or that person. So I just feel like things don't really get paid attention to and followed up on when, you know, somebody like me comes forward. And I would like something done about it because my neighborhood's in transition, as you know. There's many, many rentals. I'd like to know, are there rules for people renting houses? I mean, would a property be inspected to make sure it's livable before it's rented out? Do they know when trash pickup is? Because I don't think they do. Do they know they're not supposed to park on their front lawns? There's all kinds of rules that aren't enforced. And I'm just wondering if there is anything, because there's more and more rental properties popping up. You know, being a homeowner that I've lived in this since 1986, half my street now is rental, well, maybe not half, but quite a bit rental.
we've rebuilt our planning and zoning office since COVID. And so a lot of those issues have languished for quite a period of time. And I do know we have a process in place right now, so any complaint you have, whether it be trash or illegal parking or parking on lawns or whatever, there's an online form that you can fill out. And the department will get back to you based on its investigation. And so those processes are relatively new and now in place, and we have a fairly good code enforcement team. And so all of this is recently developed. The only other thing I'll commit to you is to revisit the idea of rental control and bringing that back to the board. And I'll keep you informed of the board's determination, whether they do not want to enter that area or not. But all housing is restricted, rental control, all those things by New York State. And social services that occur at a county level, whether the town enters the regulatory area of rents is right now not within our jurisdiction, and we have no code or law in place for that. But we have discussed it in the past, and we'll bring it back to the fore if the board has a majority of thought that wants to move in that direction. The answer to your first question is that the approval for the Ethan Allen occurred quite a while ago, but just like a lot of things since COVID, business activity, redevelopment plans, a lot of those things have been shelved. I believe the project is now commencing, and the street will get closed off. It will be it's part of the site improvement plan. And the thought of the planning board or this board was that we're going to restrict traffic through the neighborhood coming out of commercial establishment. We have an awful lot of difficulty with a street right nearby. And we've learned a lot of lessons from that street, Cattell Road, a couple of businesses on the corner of Genesee Street and Cattell. There's been numerous complaints over the years, and if the residents in that neighborhood choose to have it closed off, we've committed at any point in time, we would restrict or close that as well. But that's the bottom line on that.
I might have misunderstood, because the last time I don't know, was here on a Zoom call. When I brought to the attention the traffic flow that's going to be coming off of Genesee Street into Dewey Avenue. That's a dangerous intersection to begin with. And now you're going to have 4 or 5 businesses in that area.
Yeah.
many of the neighbors weren't even aware of this. And you told us that there was going to be a presentation from the developer that people could come and hear this. You would notify more people than just the immediate people, and, you know, that were affected. We weren't really affected and notified. I think zoning only has to tell people within 75 feet. You know, the people on Jamar Ave, they didn't know any of this is going on. I don't think anything's really been answered since we talked about this.
My understanding was that you and others got an invite to the planning board and it went through that process. They held a public.
So the planning board approved it, and you said you were gonna have another look at it. Once it came to you, and you wanted to feel what the impact was gonna be from Genesee Street turning in there. I think the highway department was looking at it and saying, yes, we can close off Dewey. I don't think anything was ever said, this is what's gonna be done. And you know, what's gonna happen, people trying to get out of there and they want to turn left to get out to Genesee Street.
They'll end up stacking on Dewey.
What's that?
The cars will end up stack on Dewey so that they can only turn left into maybe.
Yeah, they're gonna stack up and it's just gonna create more chances of an accident, isn't there? Has there been any discussion of making another exit out of that area? There was some talk of maybe getting land next to Talbot's and, you know, putting another road out to Maple Drive.
Again, the Alberts, that's the Cattell issue. That still is unresolved, but as far as I know, the public process went through on the planning board and that was approved.
The planning board approved it, and then when, you know, myself and a couple of our other neighbors came in and talked about the impact that we were gonna have and our concerns for the fire department, school buses, and you know, how that's all gonna be impacted. And you said that you were gonna have a town board meeting, the developer would come and explain to another group of people that what was gonna go on there.
I believe we had a and I apologize if you weren't invited, but I do believe we had a subsequent meeting on this issue. And but we held it at not a regular town board meeting. We held it during a planning board session. It had come back now.
Well, you know, I don't have the notes, the minutes from there, but you know, you said you were gonna send out more letters to people, you know, in the surrounding area.
We haven't done it by code or law, but the planning and zoning office is under instructions to make greater notices on all projects than what's required by law. It's my understanding that that's occurring and that larger neighborhoods are being noticed based on, you know, and we can go back and forth all day now, but I do have quite a heavy agenda.
So I understand that, you know, I wanted to come and speak today because I just felt that, you know, we're being ignored and, you know, this is the third board meeting I've come to.
Online and, further.
Excuse me, let me interject something. You haven't been ignored, Steve, because I've been corresponding with him, Jack Dooling. And I sent you information regarding the subject that you're talking about with Dewey.
You just said that to me just recently, Jack. I mean, you and I have been talking for
Yeah.
many months. And
I just sent you something from the town engineer also where he explained to you what was going on over there. From Doug Miller, do you recall that one?
yeah, it didn't, it just said that there's demolition going on right now. There's asbestos being removed, you know. Trees are coming down. There's, you know, it's happening. I understand it's happening. But I wasn't under the impression that the decision on Dewey Ave closed. Is that done? You know, that's halfway makes me happy because I don't want all those extra cars coming by my house. But everybody that lives in that neighborhood is now gonna have to drive in front of our house. And, you know, you're looking at, I don't know how many times a day, instead of, you know, a dozen cars, it might be 40 or 50 times a day. There's, you know, one of the things I'd like to do, and, you know, I'll shut up after this, is if you're going to go ahead and do this, I think there needs to be a stop sign put at Dewey Avenue and Hobson for the people that are coming up Hobson Avenue. That's a blind intersection there. If you, this time of year, you can't see around the corner because of all the trees and growth. And people drive quick up that road, and I think a stop sign would help.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Rocco, what do you think?
Sure, put in a request, have the neighbors sign off.
That's an easy fix.
Who do I put the request into?
Angela can give you some paperwork on that.
Actually, put the paperwork into the clerk, she'll forward you back the petition form. What we typically do is we ask the residents the same way. This way we get a feel for those that are in, those that aren't. And then we'll hold a public hearing on that issue as well, invite folks in on that, and the board typically sides on the side of safety. So most stop signs, you know, there's only been a few, I'd say 4 out of 5 stop sign requests end up in a stop sign.
Well, that's good. That'll help. Thank you.
When it doesn't occur, and it won't occur in your neighborhood, is typically a stop sign cause a issue in winter months on a slippery hill or something of that nature. But for the most part, stop signs are an easy request. And I'll reach out and get back to you on the notification issue as well.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has an issue? Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlene Wright. I live at 101 Emmitsburg Road in DeWitt. And I have been a homeowner for the past 14 years. And I also have CNY childcare services in my home. And what I want to get some clarification on is about our police chief. I mean, everybody is saying I want to get some clarification from the horse's mouth, not in whether he's out on paid leave. No, he's been terminated. And I just feel like the past 14 years, we have went through quite a bit of police chief. And I just feel like the public, as well as homeowners and business owners, need to know exactly what's going on.
And all I can release is what we've already stated publicly. And so I'll state that the chief has been put on a paid administrative leave. That this is a very sensitive personnel matter. And therefore, there's protections and due rights on all sides of the fence. So the details, the particulars of this issue are not anything that this board can discuss in public or disclose to anyone at this time. That includes the police commission, the public, any of the offices or agencies within the town. And so again, it's a personnel issue, and associated with these personnel issues can be all sorts of collateral damage.
Correct,
It could potentially harm the chief as well. So
correct.
again, that
I was just
discussion,
wondering,
so I apologize, but I can't give you the reasons. The chief has been placed on administrative leave
So what?
with pay. The board is reviewing the situation,
Okay.
and Captain White has been placed as the acting chief. And
So
his,
when y'all be wrapping up this personnel matter regarding the chief? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, what? What's the timeline?
as long as it takes to gather the information, there is no deadline or timeframe based on what, you know, there's an ongoing investigation, and that investigation is bringing information back to the board, and whenever the board feels it has adequate information, the investigation would end. But at this point in time, it's still ongoing.
Okay, well, another question to follow up to that. When does, if it's something you stand with the personnel, when does it cross over to the public? Because what he's doing is, well, y'all complain regarding personnel also at some point will move over to the public and to the community. So I'm just asking, when is it draw of personnel manager versus public for the chief? That's what I'm asking. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm just tactfully trying to think of
It's
an
something fair.
acceptable answer.
I'm using it. If it's something
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
to the police chief, which is a personnel matter, then where does you draw that line? We know about due process and privacy, which is also spill out to the community. That's what I'm asking.
Right.
So you understand what I'm talking about?
I do. And I cannot give an answer to
Okay.
that question at this time.
At this time. Okay, thank you.
I gotta get my question out.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, thanks.
I'm Mrs. Cooper. and I'm on the, you're smiling. You're smiling.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Smile, smile, smile. I have worked with every police from Delapi to Gulf. I've worked with Chief Conway, whatever. And my acting chief here and the Captain Fuller. Lieutenant Fuller. I'm a person who wants, and my desire as an activist and an advocate is to bring the public into the police department. My daughter and myself, last year, we gave the first appreciation luncheon for the police department. Last week, we were down here bringing donuts and coffee because I wanted to get a feel of what's going on. So they had me back in the offices back there and I sat and I chatted. And my concern is being on the police commission board that meets on the second Thursday. And the town board, you've got Karen, you've got Jack, you've got Bernard, all these people are on the commission board also. Another person has been in touch with me, several people. Why aren't we appraised? Why aren't we involved? And then you have this personnel matter that you go into executive meeting regarding. So my concern is that we're serving, but we're not privy. Matt sent out an email, which is fine, asking due to this and due to confidentiality. I've called several people. I've been in touch with Jack and back and forth, back and forth. And it's just like, we're going around in circles. See, I'm a union person. And to me, it doesn't take this long of an investigation for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We've got legal people involved, got a big law firm involved. Let's speed this thing up. And if he's not coming back and Chief White is gonna be our next chief, I'll be working with him as I always have. But we gotta do something at about these executive meetings that you hide and people don't know what's going on. And the innuendos that are being said about my police chief. That's what I'm concerned about. His well-being as well as the confidentiality matter that has been going on for way too long.
Understood. I think this board, and I know myself, because I'm the one that put this in place, but we greatly appreciate and support the civilian guidance, oversight, and direction that is part of our police commission. Way back when, in history's sake,
Yeah, I did, I checked.
it was only 3 members,
The history,
it was only 3 members of this board.
but the history is not what, I'm saying these boards, when you have meetings like at the school board, executive meetings and things happen.
Just as I answered the first question,
This is someone.
We cannot-
About.
the police commission is an open and public meeting as well. And so to bring personnel issues out into the public realm is a disservice to all parties involved. And so,
No, I wasn't asking about the public, I was asking myself as a police commissioner.
correct,
Since these meetings,
But-
why weren't?
but your meetings are public as well. I'm
Nobody-
trying to explain why the personnel matters have not been part of the police commission discussion.
Okay,
Police commission discussions are wholly public. And therefore, a discussion regarding the status of the police chief in a public realm is not fair to the chief nor fair to the town board. That is.
you missed my point, Ed. You missed my point. I said, why wasn't the commission board, us and the town board members, why wasn't it convened and we were invited? Not the public, just the commission and the town board. That's what I'm asking you.
And I'm explaining because the commission itself is a public entity and all the discussions that occur in a police commission would be opening up the discussion that this board is having in executive session into the public realm. And so, again, I understand the concerns. We've seen a lot of, you're not the only police commissioner that has voiced concern regarding this matter. And I can only hope that this board comes to a resolution in a relatively timely manner and that, well, I know a number of us plan to attend the next police commission meeting and to try to open the lines of communications between this board and the police commission. Again, there is overlap due to the membership of this board and the
I
commission.
don't think it's fair for them to sit, you know, I understand, but like I said, I've served and I've served and I've served. And I've called you and I've talked to you and talked to other people. And it's still, I know due to confidentiality, some things can't be discussed. But I still say that there needs to be some changes made with the town board. There needs to be some changes made along with the commission. There needs to be a lot of changes made, and I'm gonna write out a letter. I'm gonna type up my stuff. My granddaughter is criminal justice masters, and my grandson is criminal justice in the cosmetic dentistry. So because of them, I was working on a report that I was gonna send to the governor and send to the president. And I still intend to do that because there needs to be some changes as far as law enforcement is concerned, as far as a lot of things with civil service is concerned. There's just so much that's going on in the public that needs to be changed. It needs to be updated. It can't be just business as usual. And somebody suggested that I should run. And, but I'm gonna just run on and keep on doing what I'm doing, because I'll be 78 years old in a few more weeks. And I've been volunteering, I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, and I do everything that I want to see a better community. I want to see better things in my community. And I want to see law enforcement be treated properly. Everybody have some respect. Everybody just look to the next person and just be kind. That's all I'm asking.
And I think myself and speaking on behalf of the board, we agree. There need to,
Okay, I'll see you at the meeting and I'll be talking with you there.
okay,
I'm
thank,
leaving because
Thank you.
I need to say, I'm not giving me the answers, no point in me sitting here. Listening to the rest of this stuff. Hi, Judge.
anyone else in the audience with an issue, question, or concern for the board? All right, with that, I'll ask clerk to take the roll
Supervisor Michaelenko,
here.
Counselors Mannion,
Here.
Chiarenza,
Here.
Alex,
Here.
Ruckteschell,
Here.
Fleethood. Here. Julie.
Here.
I'm gonna jump right to the, Yes, the individuals sitting in the audience here waiting.
Like I said, we're gonna pull up the screen real quick. I'll go through this pretty quickly, so I know you guys got a busy agenda in front of you. So everything within your package is set to you in advance. Hope you have some time to look it over. Everything in the folders is the same hard copies just in there. So what I'll do is walk through the presentation, just kind of, it highlights the, you know, what we did during the course of the audit. And then brief professionals that work closely on the court audits and the financial statement audits will help kind of go through the presentation at a pretty high level. If there's any questions, just let me stop myself or brief. The first couple of slides, very similar to past years, is the required communications. Now, these are, you know, items that we have to walk through the board or communicate to you guys. It's pretty common stuff. We have to report, you know, during any course of any audit. So I won't go through every single one, not read them all. I'll just kind of highlight some of the numbers and the figured numbers. If you look towards the middle, the qualitative aspects, the significant accounting practices. You see some of the bigger numbers that aren't, you know, cash basis driven numbers or the retirement obligations. That's from the state of New York. You can see this current year, it's about $2.2 million versus last year, about $759,000. So what that really represents is a proportionate share of the ultimate liability that you're going to have to pay. We have no really control over that. To recall past years, that's driven from the state of New York, their actual assumptions. And basically, you're a proportion of that number. So as the market goes up or down, you know, interest rates change, as you know, there's been a lot of changes. That number's been fluctuating quite a bit. So basically what this means overall, the state of New York under the, you know, the pension system is a little bit underfunded. So basically what they're going to do in the future is catch up with that and, you know, charge you more in a contribution rate. So the next one is the risk management. You can see your worker comp liabilities, similar to past years, 2.4 million versus 2.5. Those are the claims that have been pending outstanding that, long term might have to be settled. These are also kind of insurance looks at it, figures out what we think we're gonna have to pay out in long term. So not a lot of changes there, but as you know, people get injured, sometimes the costs are pretty. The next bullet point I want to point out, you can see last year with the OSEBA, remember you guys switched out of the OSEBA plan, so you're still carrying on the deficit that's still remaining for paying that out. That's about 816,000 versus 2.5. So under the new plan, you don't carry a deficit. Recall that plan was actually running a deficit and you had a majority of that deficit. So by getting out of that plan, that's going to work us down to hopefully zero. That's the game plan. So that just shows that, major decrease from 2.5 million. You can see that, you're in the Greater Tompkins municipal. I know the actuaries refer to this GTCMHIC, a lot of acronyms. So I don't know. But what that really plays into is the next bullet point, the other post-appointment benefits. What that represents, you can see, last year you had a $30 million liability versus 18.6. Every 2 years, you have evaluation done, actuarial analysis, which is required every 2 years. And with the change to going to that plan, and also with discount rates raising up, so as rates go up, the liability goes down. So it's kind of inverse relationship. So the interest rate was about 4% actuarial analysis as of 1/1, they do at the beginning of the year versus 1/1/21. So that's almost 3%. That was about $6 million, $6.6 million change on top of about 5 point, plus $1 million is related to the change in the plans themselves. So the benefit terms. So that shows you ultimately have a long-term liability for your current employees and the retirees, about $18 million. The next bullet point is your capital assets, just your significant, items that you invest in over the current year. Next slide 3. Not really a lot of major changes here. One of the things you will notice if you were paying attention from year to year in the financial statements in the back, there's more schedules in the back about budget to actual. Each of your funds that deemed we'll call a major fund that has an approved budget actually has a schedule in the back comparing budget to actual. So you'll see that kind of in 4 or 5 more schedules, always required under the general fund, but we further expanded that toward the back. The rest of the bullet points are pretty standard stuff. I just want to say Carrie and her team did an excellent job working with us during the course of the audit, providing everything we needed, getting through, the town's financial results and the LDCs, which are also included part of the financial statements. So slide 4, just the overall financial statements. Not a lot of major changes there, but the best thing here to point out is what we call unmodified clean audit opinion. No difference in the past years. What that is the best type of audit opinion you can get from an auditor standpoint. It's clean, no issues or concerns from our end. All right. Slide number 5. I did point out a little bit some of the supplementary information or required supplementary information. So we have 11 schedules now versus I think last year was about 6. So you see the financial statements get longer and longer every year. But if you notice the financial statements of governments, a lot of history in there. So a lot of the history helps show more trend analysis of what's going on. So that's what you see in there. So one good thing this past year, the governmental accounting standard guys didn't really have a lot of new accounting standards that applied to the town. It was kind of a quiet year per se. So there wasn't a lot of new things to be adopted this year other than kind of standard what I call housekeeping types of accounting. So the basic set of financial statements, as you can see, running through about 55 pages. Next slide is slide 6, which is just kind of the highlights of the what we'll call the economic basis of financial statements. This is all your assets and liabilities put together. That makes sense.
Not to get into the weeds, but there's a net pension asset in 2022 that's not there in 2023.
Yep. What that represents, if you heard, this is proportionate share of either pension asset or liability. This is the funding at the state level. Recall, we have a percentage of the total either asset or liability. So when they overfund the plan, you get a proportionate share of the assets. So the theory is you would get money back if the plan ever. But the reality is most of the time it's going to be a liability. So it flip-flops depending on discount rates, returns and investments. And this is all governed by the state of New York. So that's what that is. So it's a huge swing, as you saw, from an asset. And your proportionate shares are very small. It's less than 0.5%. So because that number is spread across everybody participates.
Is that the general fund or is that
No,
specific?
that's actually outside the general fund. The cash basis doesn't change. That's your contribution rate. As Carrie could point out, contribution rate doesn't change. That's the cash out. That's the long-term either asset or liability that you have recorded. So
But that was total pension or is that police pension versus?
please.
The asset last year was the ERS fund, the employee
And the
retirement
police is,
system, and PFRS has been a liability for the both years.
Thank you.
so that's all reflected in these things called a statement of net position. You can see in slide 6. So this is what you see some of the significant swings up or down. One of the big things here too is I talked to, Carrie earlier before the meeting started, OPEB. That's the liability. OPEB is other post-employment benefits. That's the retiree benefits that are going to be paid to retirees, worked at the town and or current employees, the theoretical benefit that they're going to get in the future when they do retire. You can see that liability in the financial statements drop considerably. And that's what, swung that. That's actually because of, every 2 years, as I mentioned, is a full valuation done. And with the changes from the OSEBA plan down to the Cayuga.
Greater Tompkins.
Greater Tompkins, Great TM, yeah. I'll get it right one of these days. Greater Tompkins,
A lot of letters.
a lot of letters in that one. Such are the actuaries use, just like accountants, a lot of acronyms. But what that does show, you kind of see your total net position. This is kind of like your overall position for the town with everything put together. You can see most towns are actually in a deficit position. So you've actually went from about 10.8 million to 3.3. A lot of this is really related to fixed assets and other items and long-term liabilities that you don't fund on a current basis. But the theory is in long-term, you're going to have to pick up, those. So that's actually a really good indicator. You're moving in the right direction on a total town-wide basis. We call it economic basis. So there's a slide later on about fund balances, which is what you pretty much govern your day-to-day business on, but those are very strong too. Okay. Statement of net position, the next slide 7 is really just the LDC. As you know, the LDC is including your financial statements. You have a lease, it's back and forth between the LDC and the town of DeWitt. So this activity, because the relationship's actually included as part of your financial statements, but separate financial statements has to be issued because of the ABO requirement. So that was actually 3/31. It was due by 3/31 to be off the list for the state. So we finished that standalone audit, which is part of your financials, but that was issued and taken care of previously. Next slide, slide 8 is a big picture of the total revenues. So you can see here about $31.7 million. Majority of this is, as you would expect, is, running through property taxes and other taxes, about 1.2 million up. That's your normal, taxes, increasing, but then you got charges for services and other fees that come through about $1.3 million, which also includes, standard type fees and things that roll through. Total expenses, you can see this past year is about down actually 24.1 million versus 26, 2.1 million, but a lot of that's non-cash expenses. So when you think about a lot of expenses that are related to the long-term items like OPEB, the actuaries change your liability from 30 million down to 15. That's not a cash out the door or a cash pickup of 15 million. So what that really represents is all that net activity coming through, showing that, you actually had a revenue of $7.5 million net income. If you look at it that way, because some of these things reverse out. I think the more important slides, when you get a little further here, we'll skip the slide 10 real quick, is the LDC. That's a little bit of revenue expenses. As you can see, all this is really from the town of DeWitt, back and forth with the lease arrangement that's included. I think slide 11 was the one I was going to get towards, is the fund balance trends over the years. You can see that the town has done a great job managing the fund balances. That's what we call the current resources, meaning the dollars you bring in, are you spending against your budget? This is the summary right there. You can see the history for the last 5 years. I think we added this based on some advice from the board a few years ago. It's nice to see that you're trending in the right direction on all your funds. I can't say that for all towns, but you're not running into deficits. Capital projects always looks like a deficit because of the way the accounting works. So you do long-term bonding. Long-term financing doesn't get recognized as revenue. So that's more of a timing issue than it is from a cash flow standpoint. That's my fun thing. So you can see, your funds are, pretty healthy at $10.1 million, all funds across the town versus 6.4 last year. So you're doing pretty well across all of it. Any questions on the accounting side of the business? When we get to the very last slide. A lot there to digest, or if there's further questions, future, just mine, these business cards are in there, you can always drop us an email or we can come back and explain. So we love explaining stuff in the bank. But for the last slide, what I'll do is just kind of cover, pretty briefly is the, there's no internal control issues, material weaknesses, so we don't have anything to report from a control weaknesses to you. That's what that first bullet point says. The town of DeWitt LDC, we did issue those financial statements. In the past, we used to actually meet with the board and present in front of their board. We've not done that in a number of years, so, we would like to see it kind of get back to having the LDC board meet and, prove the financials, since the financials are due by March 31st. So that's the same type of, comment we've had in the past that you can kind of, get that back on. And then the last two things is really the town justice court audit. These are really not a financial statement audit, but more of a compliance audit. With these two audits, the 22 and 23 you see in there, we're really going through the compliance of following New York State Comptroller has guidance that says you have to follow a checklist about 25 items. As Sam and then the former, Dave, who's retired, we looked at his information. They do a nice job of following all the, the regulations and rules. We do have a couple little comments and little findings in there, but that should be, kind of common. We do look at stuff very, great detail. We look at like 45 to 60 transactions. The court clerk, the main person, Linda, working closely with Bree, walking through all the items. We have seen, a vast improvement over the years, with, the judges takes very much ownership of their account balances. It's happened over the years, but I've seen that with, with Sam and Dave, and I've seen that's going to continue on. So, those reports are, good reports and, nothing to report there. Usually 22 items.
Just a quick question. It kind of looks to me, said there's really nothing to report from either one, but looking at them, looked to me like there were a couple things in the 22. There were a few more comments, but then in the 23, it seemed like some of those had been resolved. So I got the general impression that 23 improvements had been made and that it was in better shape.
Quite a bit improvements. In fact, when Sam first took over, I've known Sam from one of my other clients too, and we actually had lunch together, myself, Sam and Dave, went through stuff and what we can do different. So, Sam took it upon himself to make sure we, change stuff, and then Dave. So I think we've seen a lot of changes, not that it was bad stuff happening, but it was like kind of, being more consistent, especially since there was a turnover in the court clerk, so they could be more consistent. So we've seen a great improvement. So you can see the less findings, and we look at stuff very great detail. So when we find a finding, it's because, people are like, how do you find that? So.
There was also an upgrade in their system. They went from creating handwritten receipt copies where there's a carbon copy that they keep and to an electronic system. So that I think mitigated a lot of the findings we had last year. And I think it's working out really well for them.
Great. Yeah, and just to say too, the court clerks do reach out to myself or Bree during the course of the year. I'm not sure the board knew about this, but the transition to the new judge, they want to make sure we actually looked at everything well, so they could, give out the bail monies. We looked at the bank recs, well before this. So they were comfortable, transitioning from Dave's account because the bail money kind of follows. They want to make sure it was reconciled because as Dave signs off, the new judge takes over.
So is from that perspective, do you feel that everything is reconciled and completed from Judge Gideon's term?
Yep.
Great.
Any questions? No questions? I recommend folks get with the offline if they do carry them available as well.
You can always reach out. You can always ask us. There's a lot in there. We can always come back and, sit with you. As Ed knows over the years, I'm more than happy to go through anything you want. You understand it more, so.
You do need the board to accept this at some point in time. What's the date that you need?
today.
Yeah.
But
But is it really, is it, yeah, I have to submit it to New York State by the 1st. Okay, that's tomorrow. Wednesday.
okay. Any other reasons that it should not be accepted here today? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion from Max, second from Carrie. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Thanks again. Now, is the court audits accepted separately? Same thing, Carrie, today?
I don't have to do anything with the court. That's not, thank you.
Did Sam have a requirement that he has to send these then by?
We will have to send them into the justice court in front of the comptroller's office and the sooner the better.
Is there any reason not to accept these here today?
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
But then I will accept the motion from Max and a second from Carrie again. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you, everyone. Hey, Patty, contract.
So it's just a simple contract for presence for a ban for Canal Day.
You're looking for authorization to execute the contract?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, it's no discussion. All right, I will entertain a motion to authorize. Joe, a second. Bernard. I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carries.
Yeah, I just want to be able to do it without.
Okay, market at Ryder Park. Just
Just looking for approval. There is in your packet a map of how we're gonna, most crafters and vendors are gonna be up here towards the pavilion. We're just gonna use these front parking spaces.
okay, so you're moving this from Carrier to Ryder.
Yes.
And the reason?
Well, we were concerned originally about the construction over there, being an issue for this. And last year, major problem was that with tournaments and this taking up half the parking lot, there wasn't enough space for the families coming in with tournaments and that kind of stuff. So we didn't want to.
Day do you run the farmers markets?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday, and there's tournaments on Wednesday.
Yeah, she was running into it a lot last year.
Okay, I know there's use, but I don't think it's tournaments. It's probably high school or other.
No, I think it's
Challenge
actually,
or-
it's used most days of the week.
Right,
I don't know
it's
if
used, but
really
it's not-
practice.
Yeah, but it's not the.
Sectional for the problem last year.
That-
Girls
that-
softball sectionals, tournaments.
Okay.
All right, because I was gonna say normal usage
Yeah.
really shouldn't impact, but
So there was, I guess, quite a few instances where stuff was in there at the same time and it created a problem for the families coming in to use the park, which is something we wanted to.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I have my eye on creating some programming specifically for Carrier.
one in process of a donation from Carrier that will greatly expand the park. Wow, we gotta get that in place. Okay, so you need an authorization.
Just an authorization that the board is okay with us applying for the permit. They couldn't give us the permit until the board says they're okay with it being here, right?
All right, so entertain a motion from the board, Bernard, a second from Jack.
Oh, can I just ask you a question? It's more of a process question. Does that mean then that Ryder Park is going to be closed to the public on Wednesday nights during the farmers market? I mean, Not really. So they'll be able to come in, they can use the park as well as go to the market. And then we scheduled it so that the bands actually come in right after the market. So they'll be able to come do the market and then stay for the bands, utilize the park for the day.
Great, but the reservations won't be open on Wednesday night.
No,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
So the pavilion would.
The pavilion wouldn't be open because we've already reserved it, yes.
I just asked one question from Rocco. Do you see any concerns with losing one of the 3 lanes for anything on your end?
Hard to say until I think we see what kind of traffic we get. Maybe we'll have to do a little bit of adjusting to employee parking. I can suggest. So you get to that point, I don't know how many cars you're looking to get. It's hard to say, right?
It's hard to say until we do one. And if we have to adjust, I'm fine with that. Just let me know if you guys have concerns. But we figured we'd try it here, see how it works. If the flow works, great. If not, then, when the construction's done, we'll go back to carry.
The question I have is, do you have a substantial number of farmers that are bringing product?
Yes, actually, there's 14, I believe, signed up at this point that are interested in coming, so.
And how's that compared to last year?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask for that question. I was just really excited to have that many people here that we could walk out there and have lunch. That's great.
The other side of it is messaging, right?
Is what?
Messaging,
Yes.
right? Outreach in order to, like,
Yeah, more.
public's expectation is it was at Carrier Park last year.
Yeah.
Right, so now it's moving. So
Yeah.
when they get the Carrier, they're gonna have some kind of understanding. They got moved to private.
Yeah, I wanted to get the permit settled, and then as soon as we did that, and that we're sure that we're at Ryder, then we'll really start
Yeah.
messaging.
That was my question, that the messaging and the marketing would be once the permit and everything settled.
Mhm.
Be on the website and or in the newsletter advising everyone, Carrier, Ryder.
Yep, definitely. And my plan is also to put signage up over at Carriers so that they're not confused. We'll give them the address on the sign.
Would it be also on on Genesee Street, the
We can put it right on the signs.
Marquee.
marquee?
Yeah, smart.
You had Ange in the back.
Yeah, the handicap parking, I noticed on the plan part of that was getting removed.
There's currently 4 spaces there. We're gonna keep those 4 spaces.
But on the opposite side, how are they gonna
Yeah.
get around if you're?
So I guess, Rocco, you guys have signs,
Temporary.
temporary signs that we can put there and make sure there's no 4
Do you
spots.
think you're going to get a lot more people using the handicap just because we get a lot for town hall? So I'm concerned with it being filled up for
Yeah, I mean, we can always do more than 4 if you think that.
I
we need
think,
it,
I
for
for
sure.
sure, I mean, it
Okay.
gets used pretty regularly.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally fine with that.
Patty, one more consideration is garbage. We don't have a dumpster over here. So that might be something to think about for Wednesday nights because we've run into it with the cleaning company
That's a really good point.
on how to get the extra garbage out of here.
Okay, yeah, fair. Rocco, can I reach out to you and
Sure.
ask you those questions? Yeah, fabulous.
I believe I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The front end of Carrier Park, we've got the beautiful flowers going in by the world's greatest volunteer, Pam Doolan.
Yeah,
She's already been over there working and she's gonna be banging with Rocky's guys, just who work with her on that from Balmer's, and they'll be planting them soon.
okay, cool. Can't wait to see it. And I've been over there since the tree giveaway, which by the way, was a big success. A lot of people came out. It was really great to be able to hand them all trees. And as we were driving around back and forth from the office, we could see people out there planting in their yards, which was really nice to see.
Yeah. You had a couple hundred no-shows?
Well, so I would say about the total number that we had versus what was left behind looked like a lot, but at the end of the day, about 75% came.
Okay.
So, but I think we'll have, and I'm gonna work with Amy to get a total budgeting, so you all can see exactly what went into it, what hours went into it. everything so that you can make a educated decision whether or not you want to continue the program. The public was really happy about it. Everybody was smiling and happy, so I think it was a success. We were still getting phone calls from people asking if they can get trees, so I mean, they really do like it.
There still is a waiting list.
Yes, there is a waiting list.
We were able to get rid of all the stock that.
Yes, we pulled in the waiting list and anything else, we tried to give to, there was like a local tree business that took a bunch of them so they could plant into it. So we tried to make sure it stayed within confines into it.
Okay, any other questions? Again, I give a motion in a second.
You got food trucks down here. Did you cover that yet? Or you're gonna do that?
We're getting it, I think that's next.
That's right after this vote.
Okay.
I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carried. Okay, special permit for the food truck to provide events.
So all we're asking, we don't want, I know you're still figuring out what you guys want to do with food trucks, but we're just asking for a special permission for when we do events. So it would be only for events, so like Canal Day and those type of things. Just to have permission to be able to do that. My full intention is doing businesses first, always. So, and if we can't, we'll canvass all of them. If they can't do it, like Carvel DeWitt is coming to Canal. And so we told Skippies that they're not coming because it's a DeWitt business. So.
Okay. It's pretty much following the policy we executed last year.
What's the positioning for alcohol?
Any of the businesses would have to have their own permits to sell. They can't sell beverages on site, like I can't hand you a beer cup and you can walk away with it. It has to be like take home only.
Bottles of wine, different.
Bottles of wine, but they're not open.
No, gotcha.
That's another area we
Yeah.
visit.
So no wine slushies.
Again, I think the board is, I don't.
I mean, I
think the board has supported that in the past.
Yeah, is there
We've had-
capacity for us to review town-specific events?
Absolutely. Yeah, again,
Specific liquor license permits you can get for limited.
Yes, because they are sponsored by the
we
town.
got to a point where we were supportive of serving alcoholic beverages at town events and parks last a few years back. And what ended up happening was the rec department didn't support it. The board and our lawyers and everything had put the system in place, and prior leadership under the rec department said they wouldn't sign off on that. You need a liquor license. And the department itself wouldn't execute a liquor license. So that,
record is saying.
I didn't want to bring up that, but that's where we were. That's where.
We bring people out, we want them to have fun, so, you know, I'm more than happy to do any of that.
Is there then scaffolding already in place that we can potentially review to get this underway?
I think all we need to go back and is execute the town liquor license. It's nothing that prohibits it. You can establish just like a price or limits or however you want to restrict it, but obviously you don't want uncontrolled release of alcohol.
Right.
There's bounds and common sensible approaches, but
We are having, and you may have seen it on the brochure for Canal Day, we're having 2 breweries come in. We're gonna do a historical talk about breweries on the canal to kind of connect it in. But it's going to be a cordoned off. It'll have its own tent, you'll have to have a bracelet in order to be under there, all that sort of stuff. So we're trying to put all those safeguards in place.
all right, so I need a motion to authorize the policy on the food trucks. From Sarah, a second from Jack. Call for the vote, all in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
That's all I have. Oh, you have.
The rush soccer.
Yes, so Rush Soccer,
I've got the stats here.
You got the stats? Okay, excellent.
Let me just do it, I guess.
Okay.
Last 2 years, the board has rented Maxwell Park to a Rush Soccer Organization. I got another request for this year. April 30th. I guess they're not doing it tomorrow, so it would be a week from tomorrow. They gotta get me a new date, but it would be that date until June 20th, 5 to 9 PM. Grand total of $3,520. So I was hoping to get the board's approval today, so I don't have to wait till the 13th, so they can start playing soccer between now and then.
Which nights?
They are there. So we have Invictus and Rush sharing the Maxwell Park.
Yeah.
So they're alternating days.
Alternated.
Yeah.
Is this the comparable rate to the Invictus contract that we already approved?
Same rates for everybody.
Same rate.
Yeah, I think just for commentary's sake, we recognize that Maxwell is in need of some infrastructure improvements, and so all of these types of contracts have the likelihood of increasing both usership and price or cost. But until these fields and other things are upgraded, it's not it's a benefit for us, and
Said it was about 3,500, wasn't the total about 9,000 between the two organizations?
Well, this is less than 2 months. Before, they were for longer stretches of time. And they were doing different sessions, so I think it's all relative. I think it's all.
It says, I believe their charge was more like 8,000 because of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's a longer.
They had 2 sessions, so that was all added into one contract. I don't think Rush is not being charged any less or more than.
No, it's the same rate, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Max and a second from Sarah. Call for the vote, all in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion's carried.
Thanks, Patty.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
Okay. Jim, this survey quote for Fiddler's Green, and I apologize right up front. I was supposed to reach out to Fiddler's Green and I haven't yet. It's gone most of last week, but in years past, they've split costs with us on these types of initiatives.
Yeah, Doug Miller, our town engineer, gave us a quote from James Ozalewski. Term sheet comes to $18,250 for the survey of Fiddler's Green. My question, when everyone on the town board got a copy, was who pays for it? Then Fed wrote back and said that he was gonna check with the Fiddler's Green Association and see what their position was on paying for 50% of it, so. That's where we are on.
Yeah, one of the things that over the years, Fiddler's Green is an accumulation of, I want to say, 4 separate parcels. Clemmer parcel, the Quaglia parcel, the original 11 acres donated to us by the quarry, and a subdivision of the Glenlock parcel. And at closings, there have been surveys and documentation exchanged, but never a formal staking of the properties. You know, so if you close on a document, surveyor will give you the abstract parcel, but we don't actually have set boundaries in the field. So it is a pretty significant parcel, and it's got numerous jigs and jogs, I guess, if you want to call it. So it's not like going out and surveying a rectangle with 4 stakes. There's a number of different stakes that would be, but it's been one of our hopes in the Green Association to actually identify the various boundary points on the property.
Is there any thought or consideration of adding to the property in the near future?
Yes, but again, it's all contingent upon sales / purchase, owners, that kind of thing. So it would, once we have the basics staked, any other additional parcels, I would hope we make sure it's staked as we add.
My only consideration on it, and I'm not against it, but just from an efficiency standpoint, if we're going to add any additional parcels to it that might take some of the jogs out of it, then it might not be necessary, depending on how long that takes, we might spend the money, go out and stake it, and then that disappears as a corner.
Yeah, I don't see any pending acquisitions or donations in the near future. I think there's long-term hopes, but I don't see anything happening. We need to reach back to the quarry itself, but the types of the relationship we have is really not identified, right? You know, we had a relationship with the Allied Quarry that went to the British company, and now it's a German Heidelberg Materials that owns it, and so we have a zero relationship with them.
But we feel like this would help with, you know, further development and use of the park.
Right, yeah, the location, the identification. Yeah, markers, signage, trails, all that stuff would fit into the. And I know the association is working on that type of master planning. They want to see the parcels of the location staked out, so it will help them with their master planning for the park.
Rocco, is there anywhere within the parks budget that we have that, whether it be half or all of this, that you think could come out?
After budget, or even.
What I would ask is a approval pending ownership of half by the organization, so that you're not authorizing the whole payment. Right? And if the association comes back and says no, it'll come back to the board. But I think this has been a fairly fluid partnership that's we've gone along, and they've been very committed to this. And part of the driving force for the request is association. They've been pushing for the survey.
Who does the staking work as
It'll be the surveyor.
Pardon?
The surveyor.
Surveyor does the work.
Yeah, he'll go up, put the stakes in any place that there's a line on a map that direction. And so it's 4 separate parcels. That's, if you look at it, you get somewhat of a sticker shock relative to one parcel, right? But there's 4 parcels being done for that cost.
Is there any thought on us doing a subdivision for it, as what if we have the survey or whatnot, or as part of the survey?
Well, rather than a subdivision, it could be a unification.
Well,
yeah.
A subdivision into one,
Yeah.
that process, the one parcel.
Yeah, that would be the next step. Okay. Turn it into a a single parcel, single part. So again, the request, I think, is for half the cost, authorization of the cost. For, with pending approval coming. Association for the other county.
Okay, I'll make that motion about 50% payment by us and 50% payment by the organization.
I have a motion from Jack. Any seconds? Bernard, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, I just wanted to canvass the board. What do we currently allow for the number of dogs? I posted
5 or less.
It's 5 or less.
More than 5 would be a kennel.
Yeah, more than 5 would be a count. And there's a site that's driven this recently to me, and it's my old neighborhood. And so there's been
Your house?
where I've grown up. Yeah.
Your house?
It's my house. But on top of that, there have been repeated instances throughout the town elsewhere. And so this is another discussion that has languished multiple boards. And that is the number of dogs that license or have the ability to license inside a single personal belief is that 5 dogs in one dwelling is too many, especially in most of our properties. The history at the location that's driving the complaint is that this property was and still is occupied by residents that are part of a dog rescue. And everybody recognizes the important / noble goal of a dog rescue. But this house of this person had as many as 12 to 15 dogs at one time. And so there is a record of social